Welcome to Blackbird Writers Presents. Today I have a very special guest. This is Nicholas Chiarkas, the author of Wheezeers and the upcoming novel Nunzio's Way. Nicholas received a Law Enforcement Commendation Medal from the Sons of the American Revolution. He has also received an Equal Justice Medal from the Legal Aid Society. He raised his two oldest children as a single dad, and he was one of a handful of NYPD cops sent to Woodstock in 1969 to provide security. He was also in an Army hospital and received a very kind letter from J.D. Salinger. He's the winner of the Reader's Book Award Favorites and the John E. Weaver Excellent Read Award winner too. Welcome. So nice to have you here, Nicholas.
Oh, thank you so much, Tracy. What a lovely introduction.
Yeah.
So sweet. Thank you. Thank you.
I should have asked, your two children are not both daughters.
No. So my oldest is Erica, and she's a high school teacher in Menominee Falls now. And my son, Nicky, works for DuPont out in Delaware. Both
Wonderful.
graduated from UW-Madison.
We have so much to talk about. So the opening of Wheezeers takes place in the projects in New York City with a father and his young son, Angelo Pastamadeo. They're walking home, presumably after Christmas shopping. The snow is falling lightly. Tell us a little bit about this opening.
So Angelo's had a tough life. He was born 9 months after his mom, Anna, was raped. And his father never really accepted Angelo as his own. And so the opening is I wanted it to be a touching and almost childlike, lovely moment between Angelo and his father, Mac. I needed it to snow, as you pointed out. I checked it. I do a ton of research. I checked the New York Times for a good Christmas Eve in New York City around the early 50s, late 40s, no snow. And in fact, in 1951, the headline in the New York Times was "No Snow for Christmas." But but I'm a fiction writer.
Fiction.
Yes. So I made it snow. I needed the pillow fight experience of snowflakes falling. But also in the opening, and I believe that it's important for truth in fiction. Angelo says to his father as they're walking through the snow, "Nona's newspaper, I'm glad Nona's newspaper was wrong, Papa." And his father says, "Yeah, the Times doesn't get it right all the time." So I wanted to nod to anybody that does the research that I know what the Times said. I wanted them to be close. And for the first time, his father speaks gently to Angelo in this magical Christmas Eve evening, and then vanishes.
He does.
And I wanted that to be a punch. And so that's why the snow and the fairy tales and instead of saying that those trees were weighted down with snow, I said the crystal gloved fingers pointed at the silent sidewalks. I wanted it to be kind of mystical and lovely for Angelo before the punch.
Your descriptions are just beautiful.
Ah,
beautiful throughout the book.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is a coming of age story about Angelo. In that opening scene, he's about 8.
Yes, 7
or 8, and then we kind of skip ahead after his dad disappears,
right.
And he's just turning 13.
Yes.
So it's pretty clear too from that opening scene that his dad wasn't always real kind to him either.
Right.
So Angelo's taking a lot on his shoulders when his dad goes away. So I was wondering too, because much of the story is told from Angelo's point of view. Did you ever have to decide at some point in your writing if this was going to be a story for YA readers or adult readers?
That's good. That's a brilliant question. I kept going back and forth, and I was influenced, I think, in the end, trying to make it both, but I knew it was going to be too long to be a typical YA. And I knew that there violence in it and language might knock it out of YA, unless we're talking about an edgy YA. On the other hand, I was influenced, as I started saying, by A Bronx Tale, by The Wire, the TV show, which you could both you could describe as either YA or coming of age as well as adult. And I wanted to do something that would combine the feeling of the movie The Young Savages with The Godfather, and kind of blend them together to make it look like a family within a neighborhood, or a neighborhood family. So in the end, I didn't decide. I tried to convince the publicist at the time, I won't mention her because I thought she did a terrible job, that I want to do both. I want to see if I can touch both. I love the fact that the Blackbird Awards awarded it Best Adult Mystery Thriller and Best Young Adult Coming of Age. I thought that was that they did both. And so I think of it now, it's probably on shelves in bookstores with adult, but I also think of it as a strong coming of age, but with the warning that it's kind of gritty. And there's violence. There's no sex in it,
Right.
probably because I don't know how to do that. Just really, at one point, I think I tried and it was just awful. But language and violence is certainly in it. So it's a gritty coming of age.
Yeah. And then the violence is very real and like you said, gritty for sure. What did you like best about Angelo?
Oh boy. So my wife described Weepers as a fictionalized autobiography. And of course, Angelo's me. When I first wrote it, my very first draft, Angelo's name was Nicky. He couldn't do anything wrong. He was such a wonderful, brave, had to get rid of him. Had to get rid of him. I wound up putting him in the gang and he kind of disappeared someplace in the background. What I like about Angelo is that he doesn't like bullies. He is a defender, but he's frightened and flawed. And he is brave only because he doesn't want people to know he's scared. And it was something I dealt with. You know, I don't know if I am truly brave, if I pretend to be brave when I'm really scared, or if brave people are just not scared and truly brave.
Yeah, I've heard the description of, like a hero is someone who is afraid of the consequences, but who gets in there and acts anyway.
And I like that. And in searching for something like that, found that Pappy Boyington, who won the Medal of Honor during World War II, he was a Marine pilot, said that the difference between a coward and a hero is that the hero controls his cowardness 1 second longer, and in that second does what's right.
Yeah.
And so I like what you said. I mean, it kind of leans to that. And I wanted Angelo to be that character, to be right. When he's in the trash can, he's going to give up and he'll do anything to get out of the trash can. I mean, he is afraid, but anyway.
But he's a
just,
fighter, and he has some really positive ideas. We should let readers know too that you grew up, it says in your book, that you grew up in these same projects that
oh, yes,
you're writing about here.
yes.
So this is probably why your descriptions are so spot on, and why the book comes to life so well for readers. Yeah.
Thank you.
So just on a side note, you lived in New York City, you grew up there, and you were in the police force.
Yes.
And how did you end up in Wisconsin?
I fell in love. I was working in Washington, D.C., and my wife, Judy, I was the general counsel. I was working for the President's Commission on Organized Crime as the deputy chief counsel to that research director. And Judy, my wife, was a prosecutor with the Department of Justice. And we met at a Christmas party, and I fell in love. And she is originally from Appleton, actually from Dale, which is a small town north of Appleton, I think. Her parents were from a mother from Chickasaw Falls, a father from Stevens Point. Her parents, grandparents had a cottage up on Pine Lake, just around New Auburn and Bloomer. And we would go there. And one day, this is a true story, one day, the two, and I proposed to her. I think I knew her like 8 months and proposed to her. I don't know why she married me, but she did. And I'm not gonna tell her why she should. We were driving along Washington. It was a rainy, busy traffic. And she mused about, wouldn't it be nice just to live in Wisconsin all the time, quiet. And when I got to my office, there was an ad in the New York Times on my desk. The New York Times was there, and I opened it to an ad that was looking for the chief public defender for Wisconsin. I looked at the heavens and said, really?
Yeah.
And sent in a blind resume. And a year later, I was the chief public defender for Wisconsin. We both quit our jobs. We jumped through a window.
Yeah.
We had very secure jobs in the federal government. I would be taking a job where I served at the whim of a board, and she would be out of work. When we got here, she was hired by the University of Wisconsin Law School, and I was not fired. I was the state public defender for 23 years. And we loved it. It was a great move. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story.
Yeah, it really is. It really
Yeah.
is. And that's how I got here.
So that also explains why you're the perfect person to tell Angelo's story as well, because you were there, you know. Angelo makes a decision at one point in the book to blow up a grocery store for personal reasons. He thinks that by hurting the owner, he is standing up for his mother because he had heard what happened to her. And he doesn't realize his actions will have far-reaching repercussions. But there's something that happens even on the way to his task, self-imposed task, that change a lot of the story.
Oh, it does. And this is a great, brilliant question. This is a writer's question. And when I do presentations, as I'm going to do at Lake Fly next month, to writers, I use this as one of the examples. So my first draft, I want to get Angelo through the projects and set fire to the grocery store. That's my goal. And I want to get to the action, and I'm hard to slow down. I want to get to that point, that implication point. And so he walks through the projects. And then in rewriting, I have to slow myself down and say, wait a minute, what does he see as he walks through the projects? And one of the things he sees is an undercover cop, he doesn't know it at the time, being beaten by two of two gang members, Satan's knights. Turns out, and he's the witness, and the knights see him. And he continues on his way and sets fire to the store. But that changed the entire book for me, just by putting in that undercover cop. And so for writers, I want to say, slow down. What are you seeing along the way? Who's that guy? If you're in a schoolyard leaning against the fence all by himself, even if you didn't mean to put him there, who is he? What's he doing? Because once you describe what you're seeing, it could change everything you're writing about. And I love that dynamic, the dynamic part of rewriting. And that's my favorite part, where you can just stop and say, why did I start with that sentence? Why did I end that scene with that sentence? You know? Well,
I do know.
Of course.
I do know. And I love the rewrites part of it too. You know, there's something to be said for a first draft. It's just kind of like the background of the painting, you know, and then when you go back and you revise, you have to add all those details.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're fixing mistakes. I mean, it's like digging a hole in your garden and planting a flower. You're not fixing a mistake in the garden. You're making it more beautiful. You're adding. Yeah. It's a great thing to do.
It's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Because I know so many authors who dread the editing process, but you just have to look at it with different eyes, I think.
Yeah. I like what you said, and I forget who it is, and I'll think of it as I'm saying this. But somebody else said, I think her last name was Hale, an author. She said that the first draft is like shoveling sand into a big bucket, and then the rewrite is building the castle. And so just shovel all the sand in there first.
Yep.
And then build the castle.
Yeah. Yes. I like that.
Yeah.
And within the pages of Weepers, there's plenty of threatening behavior, cruelty, gang fighting, and organized crime, which makes me worry about Angelo's future in your upcoming book. But with all of that, I'd like to introduce Nunzio. Angelo provides this character with information, and it thus falls into favor with the gentleman. So I think this is part two that sort of changes Angelo's life a lot.
It is. And Angelo Sabino is the toughest, biggest gangster in the city and maybe the country at the time. And he is Angelo's mother's godfather, Anna's godfather. He grew up with Anna's father, with the priest, Father Joe, and a couple of other guys from the neighborhood. So he already has some affection for Angelo. Angelo is winds up in the Satan Knight's coat closet, hiding there from them. He thought no one was there. He broke in and then hid in the closet and overheard a plan to kill Nunzio. He refers to him as Uncle Nunzio. And dashes out of the closet, is chased by Satan's knights, runs across the street, gets hit by a car. Angelo, I should say, was adept at being hit by cars. Something I learned as a kid. You run to a moving car, slap the side, fall down, or sometimes over the hood, and the guy gets out and is all upset and then gives you money not to do anything. And so it's a good way to make a couple of bucks.
Oh, wow.
Angelo knows how to get hit by a car. And so he sees this car coming and wants to stop it because it's Nunzio that's in the car. Mm-hmm. So he slaps the side of the car and falls over the front. The driver stops and he tells Nunzio about the plan that is being concocted to kill Nunzio at that very moment. Nunzio is on his way to being killed. And Nunzio, of course, at that point tells Angelo that right now, this minute, Angelo, Catino, he calls Angelo, which means little cat.
I liked that.
Yeah, there's more to that. It is the way they describe it in Naples, Italy, is that it is the kitten in the shadows that has a lion following it. And he tells him that right now, this minute, Catino, I am dead, but for you. And that sort of seals the relationship between Nunzio Sabino and Angelo. And Nunzio's Way.
Yeah.
We watch, that's 3 years later, we watch Nunzio's Way was tough. It was tougher than I thought it would be because I had to decide what's happened to all these characters for the last 3 years and how they've affected each other and the environment. Right. And so in Nunzio's Way, Angelo continues to grow, maybe in a direction that Father Joe, the priest, isn't too crazy about. And Nunzio is probably the main focus, is the main focus of Nunzio's Way.
Yeah, as I suspected. And so when you were in New York, did you have dealings with these types of people and gangsters and all of that?
Yes, indeed. And knew them and know them well. And they're all based on real characters and real events. So again, this could be a fictionalized autobiography. It could be auto fiction, which is a genre in Europe, but not here. I'm going to drink some water.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Too, you've inspired me to dig into my past and write coming of age too. I've read a few historical fictions that, well, and I'm old enough that when I was a child, that's considered historical fiction now. So my editor told me.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
No, not a chance. Not a chance.
It's crazy. But it's true. And anyway, we're running out of time. I just want to ask maybe one more question. I know your writers want to know a lot more about you, so they can find you at your website and other places on the internet. But let's see, one more question. You talked a little bit about Nunzio's Way, and that's coming. When does that come out?
September.
September. Awesome. And do you have a literary hero or mentor?
Oh, it has to be J.D. Salinger. It has to be. When I was in the Army hospital, I read everything he's written, and lots of other stuff, but I wanted to read more. And I was naive. I was 18 years old in an Army hospital at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And I wrote a letter to J.D. Salinger. The address I put on it was Cornish, New Hampshire. That was it. And somehow it got to him. And he sent me a letter back, which I still have. I will send you a copy of it so you can read it. But the thing I loved most about his letter was the envelope. And on the envelope, he hit the wrong key on the typewriter for my last name. Instead of a C, he hit something else, but then went over it, hit a C a couple of times, which meant he was really paying attention. And his first line in the letter is, "I am at best a one-shot letter writer." So I think he was telling me he's not going to be a pen pal, but that he said I wanted to answer that letter of yours. I see you're in an Army hospital, something I remember very well. And that enlightened me with Seymour, if you've read any of J.D. Salinger's a character that I always thought was supposed to be J.D. Salinger. Seymour was in an Army hospital.
Oh,
And so it has to be, I mean, it has to be the kindness of the writer, the gentleness, his brilliance. I tend to put too many commas, as my daughter, English teacher, tells me, as he did. Um, but it has to be J.D. Salinger.
that's great. Um, any parting words to tell your readers and our viewers today?
Yeah, read Tracy Phillips' books. She is, and I mean that she is a brilliant storyteller, a wonderful author, a gentle, kind person. Read her books, read Kept Secrets, all of it. She's the best.
Thank
If I
you.
could write like you,
I'm
I would be
blushing now.
thrilled. It's true. I'm just talking true.
Yeah.
Those are my final words.
Well, your Nunzio's Way, you said, comes out in September, so I'm sure that's going to be available for pre-order.
I think so. The publisher will know.
Yeah.
I think
Just
it
have
will.
to tell viewers to watch for it because, and definitely read Weepers. Do you have a cover of Weepers available to show?
I have a mouse pad that will show a little bit of it.
Oh, there you go. Yes, that works. I like that. Excellent, excellent fiction. And thank you so much for being here today, Nick. This is just
Thank
wonderful.
you, Tracy. Thank you. This is fun.
Yeah.
And we have to get coffee.
Yes, we do. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.